are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
Hugh Freeze took the stage this morning at SEC Media Days, and I absolutely love his tone, and I thought he sent a positive message. Let's go. What's up, Auburn family? Dustin Smith coming at you guys live from Atlanta, Georgia, SEC Media Days 2025. It is busy around here, guys. We are putting in the work. But earlier today, Hugh Freeze took to the stage, and I loved it, guys. I loved everything about it. You go back to the show that I put out a couple days ago, and he did exactly what I wanted him to do. Stepped up to the stage. He was confident, and he just talked about the talent that this team had, the ability that this team had, and he got me feeling a little bit better about the prospects for this 2025 season. I kind of want to go over some of the things he said. You know, he said, I like our squad, I like the staff, and I just love the energy in the building. Speaking on the roster, he said the roster is better, we're bigger, faster, and stronger, and our locker room is bought in. And a couple times he kind of alluded to the culture. He feels like now the culture is where it needs to be. So I want to start there. You know, I've watched every time that Hugh Freeze has stepped to a microphone as Auburn's head coach, and this was the most confident I've ever seen him in the roster, which we'll get to in a second, but with the culture. You know, when you go back and look at some of the things that he said before, he always said, we're trying to get our guys in here. I'm trying to get this culture turned around. He talked about guys like Keldrick Falk and Connor Lew, how they were starting to take on that leadership role, and it was starting to affect the locker room and starting to affect change. Well, now those guys are leaders. Now Connor Lew is a leader. Now Keldrick Falk is a leader, and they're comfortable in that skin. I posted a video a couple hours ago. You guys check it out, of Connor Lew talking about how much more comfortable he is now being a leader. And he talked about how now he can go to some of the young guys and say, hey, I had to come in early when I was a true freshman. I had to be ready to play, and he can kind of walk them through what mistakes they're probably going to make and how they can recover from those and be better players for it. So you brought in these – I've talked about this entire time I've done the podcast, right? It's one thing to have leaders that are good leaders but don't produce on the field. You got two guys in Connor Lew and Keldrick Falk that are leaders on your team, and those guys are going to be high draft picks. Potentially both of them can go in the first round. So when you have guys that are doing things the right way and the players that are following them can see the results, like, man, if I do it the right way, look at the ceiling for me. That's big time. So I think that has a lot to do with why Hugh Freeze is so confident in the culture that he's built this year. Now, let's talk about the talent. You know, we've heard for a long time since Hugh Freeze has been the coach, there's a talent gap. I've got to improve the talent gap. He said today he feels like, when he was asked specifically about the Auburn and Georgia games, him being 0-4 in Auburn's two biggest rivals, against Auburn's two biggest rivals so far at Auburn, he said, I feel like I have the talent now to compete with those teams. Big time. First time I've heard him say that. And I alluded to it, a couple of days ago. I just felt like with all the negative energy that's been going around Auburn for these past couple of months, really kind of starting on the recruiting show, right? But we'll probably start with last season and how last season ended, not ending well. And then it's kind of gone over into the recruiting into this 2026 high school class. I felt like he had to control the narrative. There couldn't have been any of this, we're going to do our best. Man, he was up there. He was confident. He was firing on all cylinders, and I just think that it says the right tone. But one thing I've learned about Hugh Freeze since he's been at Auburn, I don't think he's BSing this. I think he really means it. I think he really likes the squad that he's got this year, and I think that his confidence in the team, there was a bit of a different pep in his step, and I think it should make Auburn fans feel really excited for what this 2025 season could bring. Jarquez Hunter was Hugh Freeze's workhorse the first 2 years that he was the head coach, and he was asked, you're losing your guy. He gets drafted by the Los Angeles Rams, probably the best running back that Hugh Freeze has ever had in his coaching career. He was asked about Damari Alston, Darrell Robinson, and Jeremiah Cobb, how confident he is in that room, and he kind of, first off, he heaped praise on his offensive line. He said this is his favorite offensive line since he's been a head coach, at least on paper. You got to see how it plays out, but he feels really confident in the returning inside of that line. You know, you've got Dylan Wade, you've got Connor Lew, you've got Jeremiah Wright. He talked about the flexibility of a guy like Xavier Miller and then your 2 tackles on the outside and Mason Murphy and Xavier Lee. He said we still got to bring Tyler Johnson and DeAndre Carter along a little bit, but he loved their confidence. So he talked about loving the depth. But he said this is my favorite offensive line that I've had as a head coach on paper. Now that's on paper, and you don't win football games on paper. But if he can get that to translate, if what this offensive line should be on paper, if we can translate that to the football field, Jackson Arnold's going to have all the time to throw, and he's going to have all the time to throw to a lot of weapons. And speaking on Jackson Arnold here today, the media scrum around Jackson Arnold was crazy. Obviously, the starting quarterback at Auburn, we weren't able to get any questions in with him. It was just an absolute madhouse. But I thought that Jackson, I watched him interact with the media and everybody here. I thought he handled it well. I thought he handled his questions about Oklahoma very well and not downing those guys, not downing the O-line or the wide receiver room that he had there, but also expressing confidence in what he has coming moving forward at Auburn. And the big takeaway that I had from Hugh Freeze's press conference when asked about Jackson Arnold was he said, Jackson Arnold fits everything that we want to do. He said, I went back and watched all the throws, and he said, everything I saw that he had in high school, he still has it. He just didn't have the time, or he didn't have the guys last year. He talked about the multitude of different play callers that he had. And he said that when he had Jackson Arnold, when he brought Jackson Arnold in, the biggest difference between when he brought Jackson Arnold in and then when Jackson Arnold to where Jackson Arnold is now, he said it's his confidence. He said when Jackson came in, he was a little confused because he's had all these play callers at his time at Oklahoma. He said, now we know our system. There's not going to be different play callers and all that kind of stuff. We're going to run what we run. And he said that throughout spring, he has seen Jackson Arnold grow, become confident, and that confusion has kind of died down. He feels like Jackson has a good understanding of the offense. Not only does he have a good understanding of the offense, because we heard a lot of that with Peyton Thorne, right? Hugh said, well, I like PT. He knows the offense. He knows the offense. He talked about it being a coach's son and all that kind of stuff. But you combined him feeling good and about Jackson Arnold's understanding and grasp of the offense. You combine that with him saying, I think Jackson Arnold fits exactly what we want to do. I never heard him say that about the other quarterback that was here at Auburn, which leads us to the wide receivers. And we don't need to spend a whole lot of time on this because we know what Auburn has in that wide receiver room. But if you just play it out, you have to say to yourself, you're saying this is the best offensive line that you've had as a coach on paper. Okay. You're saying that this top 5 or this 5-star quarterback, this Gatorade National Player of the Year fits exactly what I want to do. And then we all know this is the best wide receiver room, at least the most talent that Auburn's ever had. We all know the names. We all know what they're capable of. He sat down with my guy Mike G earlier today and said, I can do anything I want with Eric Singleton. Inside, outside, run the ball, special teams. So I look at the offense and I say, okay, Hugh, you call it the best offensive line you're going to have as a head coach. You say Jackson Arnold fits exactly what you want to do. You went out and got Cam Coleman. You went and got Eric Singleton, Perry Thompson. Jackson Arnold has praised Horatio Fields all day. You know, when you ask one of these Auburn players or coaches about wide receiver, they always have a different answer. Oh, Eric Singleton, Cam Coleman, man, Perry's coming along. Horatio Fields, don't sleep on him. Oh, Malcolm Simmons, he's dynamic every time he touches the ball. We've got so many freaking wide receivers, guys. They forget, they can't mention them all in these interviews. There's just so many of them. They feel bad. But Hugh's like, am I leaving a guy out here? All the tools are here. And then looking at that running back room, he's praised Jeremiah Cobb all offseason. And then he really talked about Damari Alston today. When asked about Damari, he said, I underestimated Damari a little bit. And he talked about the stamina that Jarquez Hunter had and how Jarquez, he can tote the rock all game. And he doesn't get hurt, right? Jarquez Hunter was a freak. So that took away a lot of carries that other guys would have. There's just not a lot of Jarquez Hunters in this world that can run the ball for 4 years in the SEC and not really get injured and not get tired like that, which is kind of funny when you think back to the gas comments versus Vanderbilt. But we'll leave that for another day. I think that this year you're going to see more of a running back by committee. We'll see what Darrell Robinson did. He kind of alluded to he hates that Darrell wasn't able to get into there to the spring. So maybe Darrell, it takes him a little bit more time to get caught up on the offense. I would expect a heavy 1-2 punch with Alston and Cobb to start the season off. We'll see how Robinson kind of fits into that. And hell, maybe fall camp starts out. They put the hats on and the kid's just playing ball. You know, we'll see how all that goes. But very confident in Damari Alston. Jeremiah is that third down back when you think about receiving. His hands and all and everything that goes into that. But Q has really been praising Damari Austin today and his pass blocking on third down. So and Austin has the ability to catch the ball out the backfield. So that's going to be an interesting thing to watch to me, because I feel like naturally Jeremiah Cobb is more of a third down running back. But right now, he didn't say it specifically, but you can kind of pick up on the fact that the head coach feels like maybe Austin is a little bit better in pass protection right now than Jeremiah Cobb is. So I think you're really going to see, again, a heavy 1-2 punch of those guys, more of a running back by committee. But man, oh man, does Hugh Freeze sound confident. He knows that these guys are dogs. He knows that he has assembled a roster this year where there is no excuses. And that's kind of the overall theme I got from Hugh today was there's no excuses. We're expected to compete. And he talked about that. He said, look, I've built a roster now at Auburn where there should be expectations. He said, I didn't meet the expectations last year. He said, we left some games on the table. He said, but this year, there's no excuse. We've got the talent. We've got the dudes. It's time to all put it together. We're in year 3. You've got the culture that you think that you want to have. It's go time, baby. And it fires me up as an Auburn fan because I've never heard Hugh Freeze speak the way that he spoke today. I thought it was important that he send this message, but not only was it important that he send this message, I think he truly believes it, y'all. I think he really believes that he's got a squad this year, and he believes in his potential. So really, really exciting stuff today from Atlanta, Georgia. Before we get out of here, a couple of quick notes that I wrote down. He said, I truly believe we'll be in the playoff discussion. And I don't think he was trying to sell that. Has Hugh Freeze said that the first 2 years at Auburn? He's kind of given those politically correct answers, right? You didn't and I just thought about this. Big contrast from the bowl game comments on Next Round Live a couple months ago. I think he stood up there this time and said, no, we're going to be in the playoff race. We should be, without a doubt, at least in that discussion. First time I've ever heard Hugh Freeze say that. I think he's just really confident in the roster that this team has assembled. Just a couple other quick notes. Hugh was rocking the Jordans with the suit. He said it's the first time that he has ever rocked Nikes like that with his suit, but he wanted to show the new team some love. He credited, or the new sponsor in Nike, he credited Jackson Arnold's toughness, not only his ability and his arm talent and all that kind of stuff. He specifically talked about that Alabama game, the way that Jackson Arnold kind of put the team on his back, ran the football, especially there on some third downs, got some tough conversions and all that. So he's high. He's high on Jackson Arnold, how he fits the offense, his toughness, everything that goes into that. And he was asked about the kind of the tone down of his up-tempo, no huddle approach. And he said, listen, I got to get these defensive guys some rest. He said there was a time period when him and Gus were running that up-tempo offense and everything, and it was working great. Not only did defenses adjust, but also it gets to the point to where it kind of wears down your defense just so many snaps. You're running up-tempo, you're running fast, and maybe you even put it in the end zone, but the drive lasted 1 minute and 10 seconds, and now your defense is back on the field. And in this NIL state where you're just not as able to necessarily stack depth in the way that you maybe could have in the past, especially at D-line, because pass rushers are at a premium. Interior defensive linemen are at a premium. So if you've got multiple of those guys, it's a good possibility another team is going to swoop in and, take some of those guys from you. So he kind of just talked about how, hey, listen, we're kind of toning down that up. We're going to pick our spots. Going to pick our spots with that, pick and choose. We get a big play on first down. We can go into that, get the opposing defense off balance. But just the way the game has evolved, you're just not doing that quite as much. So I thought that was very interesting insight from Hugh as to why there's kind of been a little bit of a tone back in what was his original philosophy of go, go, go. So, man, appreciate you guys for tapping in. Please smash that thumbs up button. Sub to the channel if you have not already. Sign up for these memberships. Had a couple of memberships sign up today. And go ahead. $3.99 a month to get you that JV squad. $5.99 a month will get you that varsity squad. Sign up now, man. Exclusive content coming out for the members that are live for you guys earlier right here on the Uptempo podcast. Share this out on social media. If you haven't checked out my questions with Connor Liu earlier, they are up on the channel. Go check those out. Share those out on social media as well. Follow me on Twitter at DMcShad28, Twitter, X, whatever you call it. I am Dustin Smith reporting live from SEC Media Days in Atlanta, Georgia, 2025. Got more content lined up for you guys, and I keep pumping them out. I'll see y'all soon. War Damn Eagle, baby.